So I just came on here randomly because I was meal prepping, finished meal prepping. For those who care, there's a video out there, basically just seafood. I'm a seafood lover, so cooking, and then I had some ground turkey, all the good stuff. So, well, on this Sunday, I wanted to chit chat about some more questions that came my way. I met up with a student in person, and then I talked to a student on the phone. So I talked to another physical therapist. It's been a busy week. I already know the summer's gonna be busy. So for those of you who messaged me, I appreciate y'all. Understand that the off season is not off season. It's busier than in the season. Just don't travel as much. But that's not why we're here. We're here to discuss a little bit of the questions, common questions that I've got received. Trying to make these nice and short, like we talked about in the previous live. That previous live we talked about. That previous live. What did we talk about? What to major in. So we talked about that. Check out that previous video. We also dabbled a little bit into like what school to do, or school options schools. So that's in the previous video. So I should probably change that title so you know majors and schools. Someone who's in undergrad, actually two people in undergrad, obviously I won't say names, chit chat about like their major. So we already talked about that before, but then what do you do after you graduate? Do I graduate early? Do I graduate on time? Do I graduate later? Also, like, what school should I do? Should I do athletic training? Should I do physical therapy? So this is where we got into a little bit of nitty gritty that I want to share, hopefully quickly, because we're at the 2-minute mark already. I'm gonna make sure I have my notes here on my phone. So yeah, it doesn't matter your major, as we talked about last time, but what does matter is, do you have the prerequisites for the school that you want to do? So for example, if you want to do physical therapy school, I went to Emory, so I'm just giving Emory as an example, knowing what the prereqs are. So they may say like chemistry, 1 or 2 years. It may say, most likely they're going to say anatomy, physiology. And I should also say, if you're also doing athletic training, they're also going to have anatomy, physiology on there as well. Just to clarify, athletic training is no longer an undergraduate degree. It is a master's level. There are doctorate level programs. In my previous lives, you'll see a doctorate of athletic training is not necessary. I think if you want to be a professor, if you want to do the academic route, do that, go for it. Do not let any advisor, and I let them come to me, I'll talk to them. I have no shame saying, confronting them. Don't let any advisor tell you, any teacher to tell you to get your doctorate of athletic training, thinking that's going to give you more money or automatically get you into professional sports or anything like that. That is not necessary. Most of the people that are in professional sports, if you go on LinkedIn, they don't have a doctor of athletic training. If they do, it's because maybe they're doing research or some type of academia stuff. So yes, if you want to teach, you want to do work at a university, school, X, Y, and Z, there's usually a tier system. So if you have a doctorate level, you get paid more. That's not how that works when you work high school, college, professional sports, having a doctor of athletic training. So keep that in mind. So now we look at going back to the original question about like what should I do? Should I do athletic training, physical therapy? So we can start looking at physical therapy. There's still a shortage in physical therapy at all levels. So hospital, skilled nursing facility, etc. There's also still a shortage in athletic training, and that's in all settings, whether it's a high school, college. What there is not a shortage of are athletic trainers and physical therapists in the professional sports setting. So that's where it gets a little interesting, where it's like, okay, what can I do to be competitive to get to the professional sports setting? We're going to break down all these lives talking about different things like certifications, classes, courses, all that good stuff. They're in my previous lives, so if you guys care to watch those, there were Q&As and stuff, you could watch those. But I think these lives moving forward, unless described otherwise, we'll just have little quick hitters. So you guys can just go to the video, see the topic, go to the video, and know what we're talking about. So 1 to 2% of physical therapists, 1 to 2% of athletic trainers make it to professional sports. That's MLB, NHL, like NBA, NFL, etc. So when it comes to either being an athletic trainer or physical therapist, athletic trainers have an advantage of knowing what like on-field experience, getting those hours as maybe a sports physical therapist, or meaning a physical therapist went through residency, truly had the on-field hours to sit for their SCS or their sports certification specialty. That's another life. But just saying, athletic trainers have that advantage. What the problem is making sure that athletic trainer has the experience of the professional side. So that's why I will also talk about internships and stuff. That will be a future live. Those internships or anytime you see internship, I post that on my LinkedIn. I post that on my Instagram. Facebook as well. I post all those things for internship opportunities. Right now, there's not many. I think I've only sent out the Tampa Buccaneers one as of right now. Obviously, job opportunities. So sometimes there's jobs I list out. They have certain rules, right? So they'll be like, oh, you need to be an athletic trainer. So for the most part, you'll see a lot of teams looking for athletic trainers. And then some may look for physical therapists. However, a lot of teams, when you talk with them, whether you're in an interview or whether you're on the other side or you're hired as a physical therapist or athletic trainer or whatever you are, a lot of times they like dually credentialed. Dually credentialed means that you have an athletic training degree and a physical therapy degree. You're certified. So having those certifications, it's not the same as just taking a test, meaning you had to go through school. At this point now, we established it's a master's of athletic training and a doctorate of physical therapy. So if you are someone, you're in undergrad and you're like, okay, I don't want to do, or maybe you're someone, let's do different scenarios. So one scenario is you're an undergrad and you're like, oh, I want to do, I want to be dually credentialed. What can I do? So we talked about in other lives where there are programs such as Shenandoah. I think Idaho State also is a program where you could be dually credentialed. It's a total of like 4 years. And I'm looking up another text for someone else that gave me some insight as well. So thank you guys for giving all the information that you're hitting me up on. So Shenandoah is a private institution. So be aware of that. As we talked about, where private institutions are a little bit more expensive, or probably a lot of expensive. That's also in Virginia. So if you don't want to relocate, also Idaho. Some people don't feel great about Idaho. I've never been to Idaho, so I can't really say. But I know two people who went to Idaho just for their athletic training program. So just be aware that those programs are there, where if you want to do your master's of athletic training and your doctorate of physical therapy, that's in 4 years. That's pretty good. Because if not, athletic training is a master's. That's about 2 years. Your doctorate of physical therapy, traditionally, so I'll clarify after I say the statement, traditionally is 3 years. 3 years in a semester. There are now programs talking to more and more students. So thank you, students, and thank you, other people I have been, or interns that I've met along the way. So I have known now some people that have done physical therapy first or in PT school, and they're now discovering they want to do other stuff. So the other scenario is I'm an undergrad. I want to do physical therapy. I want to do a doctor of physical therapy because there are teams, actually a lot of professional teams have to have physical therapists. It's a rule. Like it's a rule. So it's something that to be aware. There's a rule to have athletic trainers and there's rules to have physical therapists. How many? That depends on the organization, depends on the governing body. So let's talk about now. I'm undergrad. I want to do physical therapy. Cool. That's a doctorate level. That is the highest you can go. We're not talking about sports residency fellowship. That's another live we'll talk about. But it says like, oh, I want to do that doctorate physical therapy. Now let's look into schools. So there's the traditional route. Like I talked about Emory, Georgia State, Mercer, et cetera, public and private institutions. So be aware of the schools and et cetera. So yes, so that's where, yes, good question. So yes, it's true. If you know your prerequisites, you're looking up that school ahead of time. And you're just understanding like, what do I need to do undergrad? When it comes to knowing the prereqs, I'm telling you from experience, and also I was told by someone else, they were told, like, it's usually students that are saying this, so be aware. Do not listen to students. Some advisors you might not even listen to. where they'll say, oh, your prerequisites say that you have to do anatomy, physiology, physics, chemistry, and it might be just regular chemistry, not organic chemistry, statistics or something like that, right? Sometimes it's just general stuff. When you get those prereqs, I was in a situation where I was actually in undergrad and I wanted to take those classes, to do physical therapy school in the future, but there was a waiting list. So I'm on this big, huge campus. I went to University of Georgia. They're telling me, this is August. They're like, oh, well, you want to do anatomy, physiology? I'm sorry. We don't have anything available till next fall. And I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that next fall? So that's when I realized, okay, I need to do the classes that are available, but I'm going to go to community college. So I am a huge advocate on community college. There are students even to this day, because I talked to someone yesterday, there you go, who was told, oh no, don't do community college. That's not going to help you. That's not a reputable university for your courses. I'm telling you, I did community college. I still went to the University of Georgia in the summer because I was not waiting a whole year. I went to community college and did a lot of my prereqs. I'll name them right now. I did all of my anatomy physiologies, all of them, in community college. I did my physics, not my first one because I was in this big, huge auditorium, but my second one when I was like, I am lost, did my second physics in community college. Then I also did some other course that I can't even remember, some type of chemistry. So that tells you those are like the heart of the what is that called? The meat and potatoes of your prereqs. The schools that I applied to did not feel any type of way like, oh, that's a community college, we can't accept her. What I did do to make sure everything was legit, I checked in with my advisor, but I also checked in with the school. So if I knew I'm at the University of Georgia and I want to go, I don't think it's called Georgia Prim anymore, but whatever, it's a community college. I made sure those credits are going to transfer. I don't want to waste any time to say, oh, I did this, and then come to find out it doesn't transfer. Yes, that is your fault if you do not check on that. So check on that, just make sure you're good. You're not wasting any time, you're all set. When it comes to then knowing your prereqs, you'll know what classes you need to do, or if you're like, you want to major in art history, but then your advisor or school allows you to do the prereqs, or you do them community college, no issue. You can major whatever you want to, as we talked about in the last video. Omar, great point where you said, also, I know all the prereqs, but I want a school I can make my both. Okay, hold on. Also, I know all of the prerequisites, but I want a school and I can make my both of this programs. I think I know what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. So basically, like, you know the prereqs, but you want a school that has both programs. Yes, so I did list the programs thus far about like Shenandoah and then Idaho State. What I was going to go dive into is, say if you want a physical therapy school and you're going to do the traditional, obviously it says 3 years in a semester. However, now, or maybe a couple years, so it's getting more popular. Now there are programs where are hybrid. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So I am a fan of hybrid programs, meaning it may be a 1-year program, it may be a 2-year program. There are some, I gotta cheat. Hold on, let me look at some people who told me about PT programs that are like a year to 2 years, and some of them are at your pace, which is cool. St. Augustine is one. So look up St. Augustine. So this is PT school we're talking about. We'll get to our third option, which is called athletic training school. So St. Augustine is one. Let me cheat on my phone and find the other programs that I looked up. Okay, another one. Say if you are in the UK, you are Canada, you're out of the US, or you decided to do physical therapy like back in the day and you're not a DPT or a doctor of physical therapy, there's one called a transitional DPT program. So that's the College of St. Scholastica. That is, you could be done as little as 1 year. So that also helps because you can work at the same time. So that's cool, especially if you work in a place like a professional sports team or a college or high school, and you're getting hands-on experience. You don't have to be the professional level to actually do these programs. But just talking about just being competitive. And then now you talk about some other PT programs. There's one, I'm gonna get this in a couple seconds. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh, Baylor. How did I forget about Baylor? Baylor's down the street, kind of. Baylor is another program that's online. So you would obviously take your classes online, and then when it comes to do your clinicals, clinicals have never been like there's never been like you had to go to school for your clinicals. You always go out for your clinical rotations. So that's where you start getting into some good hopefully you were networking like we talked about in previous live videos, like on LinkedIn, and figuring out how your clinical coordinator at your school can help you land some good internships, or you're doing the work yourself and then you're making sure the contract between the clinical coordinator, your school, and the organization, whether that is a professional setting, college setting, or even like a what's the word I'm looking for? A hospital setting. There are hospitals that do outreach. So like Duke is one, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Emory, like a lot of at Grady Hospital. There's a lot of hospitals, so you could do your rotations there. So it doesn't have to be professional sports, and then you can get the outreach experience, the on-field stuff that you could put on your resume that carries over into saying you have experience to work a professional team, et cetera, as much as you can. So that's the DPT route. So yes, I did say you can do DPT as short as 1 year. Obviously it would depend on your speed of like doing your classes, your hours, if you're working on the side. The only thing I would advise is I would like you to, and this is just my prayer for everybody, if you do that route where you're finished with PT school in 1 year, you want to make sure that you're not looking dumb, like you're ready to take your boards and then you're like, oh, I'm a PT, but then you can't actually apply it. So be careful of programs that are very quick and that you can't, apply what you learned because you went through the fast track. So be aware of that. So another question before we get to our last option. So it says, I looked the prerequisites of Baylor, but in my university does not give a course. Yeah, so when there's a prereq that you see that doesn't have the course that you have in your undergrad, that's when you need to call the school. You need to do whatever it is to get them on the phone, ask them what is an equivalent course. So sometimes it may be, what did I take? I took like biomechanics. It was like a intro biomechanics and it had medical terminology in it because my syllabus had that and it was listed. So then the school took it. So I would definitely look into, you have to call the school. Like just don't assume anything. Call the school and make sure, because they're going to have different names for classes in your syllabus. It may actually state what the class is about, and then the school may approve it. So keep that in mind. So now we're going to talk about the last scenarios. Like, okay, I'm in undergrad, I'm going to do athletic training, or I'm in PT school right now, and I want to add athletic training because I want to be the most competitive possible and be duly credentialed, because that is actually very rare, because very rarely do people want to go in school for 4 years, or, or if they're in PT school, do they want to go back to school for athletic training? Just know, if you're in athletic training school and you go back to PT, you can do that. And also, if you're in PT school, you want to go back to school for athletic training, you can do that. People might tell you like, oh, that's backwards. You have a doctorate of physical therapy. Why would you go back and get your master's? Because you're going for a bigger goal. So if your goal is to do sports, I advise you to do it if you feel like you haven't gotten where you want to go. But do not be like afraid of small stuff. That makes sense. So I started a high school job. That obviously that's not professional sports. So don't overshadow it like, oh, I don't want it because it's not the pros. Just because like you have to gain some type of experience somewhere. I volunteered, or I shadowed, or I observed, or I did some work in the community. That helps. All this stuff helps. Obviously that's for another video. Let's get on to our last scenario, which is, okay, athletic training school. There are athletic training programs, just like now there are physical therapy programs. There are some that are not just 2 years. They could be as short as 1 year. And they have them online or sort of hybrid. Also, you would still have to do your clinicals just like with physical therapy school. Some programs will land you with really great opportunities. There are some athletic training programs that already have connections with professional teams. And then there are some that you would have to do the work, create the relationship with whatever team that is, and connect or be that liaison or create that contract between the clinical coordinator of your school and that team. So being aware of that is also amazing. And I think AT Still University is another university. I believe AT still has their athletic training program that you could do like a short, like a hybrid, right? So that ends to be your typical 2 years. Let me make sure. Oh, and then now another ATC program that I just found about it is Hardin Simmons. Hardin Simmons is another school where you can do 1 year or it's hybrid. So basically, like you are doing mostly online, and then you can work on the side, or say if you're already a PT, you can do this stuff online and still work your PT job. Vice versa, if you're already an athletic trainer. So I was an athletic trainer before I started PT school. So I could work as an athletic trainer, still be in PT school, make some type of money, gain some experience. So look into that if you don't want to do one school that has both physical therapy, athletic training together. You can do that route where you're doing athletic training school first, get your be board certified, because once you finish athletic training school, you would be eligible to sit for your board exam, get your certification or athletic training license in that state where you're going to PT school, make some money on the side, get some experience, you catch my flow, then you're in PT school, you then finish PT school, do your clinicals, and then you're already set to work, and then just let people find you because you're already networking like we talked about. Most likely your PT and athletic training schools will put you in, what's the word I'm looking for? Conferences, and that's how you network again. LinkedIn, obviously it's another video, but just kind of give you an idea. The last scenario, which I probably should have said the previous one was not the last scenario because I just thought about it. There are people who are then, I did athletic training. I don't want to go through a whole 3 years for physical therapy school, or I heard that there's a hybrid program. I can be done in quick as 1 year or 2 years. What can I do to bypass doing some of the duplicate work? So there are some programs, and actually not just the program itself, but the individual situation you're in. You can talk with the school, whether it's the program director, admissions, and talk to them about like, hey, I already did athletic training school, or you're in another scenario. Hey, I already did physical therapy school. What are some things can I bypass? Can I bypass anatomy and physiology, or can I just attend the labs? Can I do some of that stuff on the side? Can I give you the credit hours I've already done? It's somewhat similar to, I was in athletic training school, I didn't like that school, I'm transferring to another university. What credits can you take? Make sure I don't have to redo anything. So obviously we talk to your advisor, talk to the school that you want to go to make sure that is all clean and clear before you transfer. And then hopefully that will shorten the amount of years that you're in school as well. Trying to think if I'm missing anything, but I think that's basically, we're at 23 minutes, and we talked about schools. We talked about options. We could do physical therapy alone, athletic training alone, do both. How can you shorten the time? I talked about the hybrid programs where a lot of them are online. Some of them are online, and then you obviously do your clinicals. That would be regardless whether athletic training or physical therapy program. I think our next videos, because we get these questions, I get these questions a lot about like, okay, what I do, like what are certifications in the meantime? So for example, you graduate early, you want it an undergrad, I should say. You graduate undergrad early, you have a semester, you have a year. What do I do in the meantime? One thing I want to keep in mind, because this situation just happened with someone talking with them, if you do graduate early and you want to do physical therapy school, please make sure that school does not have the GRE. If you have the GRE requirement, please work on your GRE before you graduate. You can do your GRE even your first year. You will take that test and you'll find out like, man, you already had a lot of the stuff already done. That's what I wish I took my first year. That's something I would advise people to do that. So yes, so Omar, again, volunteering at any level, it doesn't matter. People care about you, give back to the community. When you start to observe like in actual clinics, that still helps, but I didn't shadow, I didn't have an internship at the professional level. My stories that in the other lives, like I was emailing people that I was like, oh, you work for this team. I started making them emails like this first name, last name at miamiheat.com.org. I was trying to get internships left and right with professional sports. You don't have to. Please go locally. Yes, YMCA, Red Cross, that's great. Volunteering. Get a little bit more specific with like AAU basketball. Be a first responder. That's in my future video. They're in my previous lives. We'll break that a little bit further so you can get a little bit more hands-on experience. The certification route, the observation route. But to answer your question, volunteering at any level for the community plays a lot of weight, but being more specific on what you're doing instead of just saying, I helped clean up, I did this, I did that. Happy birthday, Rebecca. And at the end of the day, like, get into like whether it's clinics. When I say clinics, it could even be as simple as I know Emory is speaking of a certain area, but think of where you are at the hospital setting. If they have an outpatient clinic, find out about that. If they have outreach like Emory, CHOA, or Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, Houston Methodist, they have actual outreach programs. So then there's athletic trainers that go to the community. Duke, they have athletic trainers go to the community. Just ask to shout out, ask to volunteer, ask to just be a fly on the wall. Whatever paperwork you have to do just to get that type of experience or that exposure, you take notes of those hours, you write that down. So answering that question, I think I want to get a little bit deeper into it probably in another video, because you're not the only one that has that question about like volunteering, and then also talking about certification, what to do to make you look as competitive as you can. Keeping that in mind, look out for that future video. I want to keep this under 30 minutes. So we're just talking about schools with this one. Omar, great questions. Happy birthday, Rebecca. And I'm going to end this video here. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing. Thank you for those who watched all the way to the end. Share this with other people. Share the previous video about majors in some of the schools. This one's about schools, what to do, athletic training or physical therapy or both, or how to shorten the amount of time, whether you're doing an online program, hybrid, or you're doing the full jazz like I did the full thing. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys in a future video. Okay, bye.